Hey folks, it's David back again with another video. I had mentioned in that last video I was going to do a couple of reviews, and this is the other one. I also saw Astra with Brad Pitt about a month ago, a week or so after I saw Rambo: Last Blood. And I have not looked up, I started to, but I thought, you know what, I just want to give my thoughts on what I saw in the movie, not go into a critique of who the director was, who the writers were. I just want to say what I saw on the screen and what it means to me. I prefer that kind of review over, well, the more technical stuff and have not followed the previous creations of the guys and gals who made this particular movie. First things first, I got nothing against Brad Pitt. He's been in some movies I like, I guess, but maybe not that many. I haven't seen nearly all of the movies that he's made. I wanted to see this, though, because it's Brad Pitt in an astronaut movie. Hey, kind of like when the, I don't know if it was South Park or if it was the How It Should Have Ended guys when they made that little thing about World War Z, which is the last good Brad Pitt movie that I saw. Still waiting on that sequel if it ever happens. Anyways, when they said, it's a zombie movie, but this time it's Brad Pitt. Well, this Ad Astra movie is an astronaut movie, but with Brad Pitt. So there you go. That's why I wanted to see it. All I knew going in was that his father's lost in space. His character's father's lost in space. And this is going to be about trying to find him, rescue him. It's kind of a mysterious thing. And has the subheading of, sometimes, I'm forgetting what it is now, I should be looking at it, but I'm outside enjoying the weather right now as I walk around on this beautiful November 1 day. The answers we seek are sometimes just out of reach, or the answers we seek are just too far away sometimes, or something like that. A good little one-liner, and really, it almost seems like bait at this point to get you to watch this movie, because even though I enjoyed it, I ended up I was kind of sorry that I had drugged my mom and my sister to see it, if that makes sense, because I don't like watching movies by myself at the theater, although I will. In fact, I need to get back to the way I was when I was in my late teens, and I was happy to just go to the movies to see the movie at the movie theater and not worry about being alone. But anyways, they weren't all that keen on watching it, but then again, they were there, they were with me, and I just told them afterwards, thank y'all for humoring my curiosity about this movie. I'm glad I watched it. It's just, I don't know that it has a lot of rewatchability, but then again, that's another reason I watch movies at the movie theater, because when I see it in the big dark theater, it's like it's burnt on my brain. I don't need to see it a whole lot after that. I remember it because of the theater experience, and I guess that's why I like the movie so much. Apart from being able to just go out and have something to do. Anyways, it's not the movie I thought it was going to be. This is a story about a man who is basically coming back to himself, but who didn't realize that he was like a man apart. He has this stellar record of service in the, what do they call it, the U.S. Air Force Space Corps, or whatever the designation was for his military service, I believe it is, but he's an astronaut. I wish I could remember the title, but it's been over a month since I saw it. And speaking of titles, I didn't even know what Ad Astra meant, but it's the ancient language for just meaning the stars. And so, there you go. He is always calm. His heart rate is always leveled out and calm throughout the most dangerous and just emergency scenarios. He's just dead calm and is able to keep himself under control, and that's something that's helped him in his service. For instance, the film opens up with an accident in space. And the cause of the accident leads into the plot of the film, in as much as there's this surge coming from a faraway location in space. But I'll get to that in a second. Again, spoilers in this film. In this review. Spoilers. If you haven't seen the film and you don't want anything ruined, please come back and listen to me later, because I'm going to go ahead and give some details as I remember them, and I don't want to ruin the movie for you. he falls out of this, like, sky elevator, this ladder from the earth into space. That's the way it looked to me anyways. There's an explosion, and he falls down, and he ends up falling all the way back down to earth. And he never lost his cool. His heart rate didn't spike at all during this. And there's something about the cinematography of it. They help you. I say they, the way they film this. It's as though you're just seeing something, but it's like you're calm with him at the same time. I don't know if anybody else got that, but that's the way I felt as he was. They do something with the sound that manipulates that. It's like you're not freaking out as you're seeing a couple of people blown up and knocked off the ladder, and he's falling and falling and falling. You'd think you'd be about to wet yourself, but no, there's something calming about it. Again, I think it's something they do more so with the audio of the film than the imagery you're seeing on the screen. But anyway, then he's in a briefing saying, well, you did it again. There was an emergency, and even in this latest fall, your heart rate didn't spike. We need to ask you what you know about such and such a program and mission. And he says, oh, well, that was the program that my father was over. And it has to do with the Neptune, his father, played by James Earl. I was about to say James Earl. Wrong, David. Tommy Lee Jones, who unfortunately you don't see a lot in this movie, and that's a bummer. You also see Kiefer Sutherland, but just not very much. I'd like to see them a little bit more, especially considering I got memories of the Space Cowboys movie. Then again, James Garner's passed now, and Clint Eastwood wasn't in there. But it was neat to see them. But, well, I'll just get to it. Brad Pitt's character has these flashbacks of things from the near past, and it's Liv Tyler's character, who I guess her name is Eve, but she didn't say a whole lot in his memories. And again, it's not like from childhood or anything. No, it's his adult life. It's like she's his wife or his girlfriend or something. You see him like smiling. They'll be in bed at a coffee table here, there, and it's like there's this longing, this like distanced, emotional aloofness that you constantly get as he talks about his memories throughout the movie, and having to update his psych evaluations all throughout the movie. They must do this like a dozen times, where he says, my heart rate is this, my resolve is this, I'm determined to do the mission, I'm ready to go, and then some computer voice will say, confirmed and approved, or something like that, like you're still good to go. But always with this, it's like there's this question there of the computer might say something like, you are not good to go. You are not approved. You're emotionally compromised, or you're not healthy right now, or you're running a temperature. There's always this possibility that it might say that. That's the feeling that you get from these constant medical evaluations he gets with this computer system. Anyway, they're sending him to try and retrieve, or actually, the film's plot is the mission he goes on. He has to go to Mars and send the message to his dad from there. And so that's what he does. And again, it's a constant narration by Brad Pitt the whole time that really lets you get into this character's mind. And that's the thing that really carries you to the end. And that's what kind of redeems the movie in the end. Because if there hadn't been, maybe there could have been a little bit more, but if there hadn't been enough narration as there was, you would have really been left hanging big time by this movie, wondering, what did I just watch? What kind of a character study? What is this? What did I just watch? But he talks a lot throughout the movie. Again, not with his mouth. It's what's going on in his head. You're hearing his thoughts, basically, which is a much better way to go about it, in my opinion. He goes and flies to the moon with Kiefer Sutherland. And Kiefer Sutherland was like, I knew your father, and he is a legend. What do you think of him? Do you know what you're doing? Do you understand this? And he learned something about his father that he didn't think he well, you'd have to watch the movie. I don't want to spoil every little thing. But basically, he learns little things about his dad that he didn't know before from these people. And now that I think about it, it makes a little bit more sense at the end of why he goes to retrieve his father personally. But let me build up to that point. They get to the moon, and they have to get to another location on the moon, and so you get to see this dune buggy drive over the moon's surface. And believe it or not, in whatever year it is, it's as though there's so much civilization happening that there's anti-civilization happening. They're like pirates who will rip off your equipment. They'll kidnap you, maybe hold you for ransom. Sure enough, as they're driving in their space dune buggy across the surface of Mars, the moon, as quickly as they can, another one pulls up beside them. And here it is, some pirates, and or whatever you want to call them. And Brad Pitt says, "Here we go again, fighting over resources." And so they try and take him. Their driver gets killed. He manages to shake him. And unfortunately, the whole event leaves Kiefer Sutherland's character just in a bad way, like maybe he's having a heart attack. He ends up saying, when they get to their destination, "I can't go on with you." And he gives them something from his father. And again, the way the dialogue goes, the way people talk to each other in this movie, it flows consistently, but also at the same time keeps you wondering, what sort of people are these? What kind of story is this? Because it's unlike any other movie I've seen in a while, and I'll just leave it at that, as far as the dialogue and the way people act in this movie. Because unfortunately, you're just not seeing much of the broader world and what's going on in this universe, in this particular story. What's the world like? What's the earth like? All you know is that there are these electrical storms, this disturbance that threatens to cause a chain reaction that could cause a lot of death and misery, and maybe destroy the world. It has to do with this surge, this pulse that's coming from Neptune. They know it's his dad. They know it has something to do with him. And so what happens is he goes on to Mars. And again, this is very realistic in terms of how long it takes to get from place to place. A little too realistic. You're thinking to yourself, man, this would take forever. And Brad Pitt is still narrating the story. I guess I like that quite a bit. There's an event when they're on this rocket in space going to Mars where there's a distress call by another ship, and Brad Pitt's like, "I can't be deterred from this mission. This is Class 1 Level A Red Alert emergency. I've got to get to where I'm going." And the captain might be the most down-to-earth, so to speak, person, most level-headed person in the whole story. The captain who's over this crew flying this rocket transport to Mars. He says, "It is my duty to answer this distress call. Because of your rank, you can commandeer this vessel if you so see fit. But you'll have to declare your intentions, and you'll have to tell us what your mission is about, basically, if you want to do that, but that you can do it." And in the end, Brad Pitt's like, "Let me go down there with you to this ship." And that was the most impressive thing that I saw in the movie, pretty much. This one guy who spoke so to the point, and he wasn't going to leave these people out to dry, just in space, but no communications, not understanding what's wrong with them. Why did they send this distress call? So they dock with this other ship. Brad Pitt goes with him, and he tells him, "I know who you are and your dad. He really is a legend, and he's the reason why I'm here." That doesn't really help as far as your memory of him in this movie, because when they get inside this spaceship, he dies. He dies, man. It's the weirdest, it's a bizarre thing. It really is. It's like a ghost ship, and I'm having bad memories of Event Horizon at this point, thinking, okay, what in the world is this? This movie's rated PG-13, so what's going to happen inside here? And I'll tell you what else it left me with, this movie. This sense of the universe, our one solar system, being so huge, so massive, such a wide expanse of space and maybe possibility, but among so many thousands of galaxies and solar systems, and yet so claustrophobic, because so many moments of this movie are you watching Brad Pitt going through little tunnels, living in a spaceship, in a space rocket, because you can't survive outside of it in space. And so you're kind of tossed to and fro. You're pressed down, but you're also brought back. You're here and you're there as you watch this movie. It's really something. And I thought that as I was driving away from the movie theater. I told that to my mom and my sister. I'm thinking, wow, it was so big, this story, and yet so crammed down, claustrophobic. Not really a place to move around in this big expanse that you saw, because you see great scenes of these vessels, just one spacecraft at a time in these scenes, floating past Jupiter, floating over Saturn or Mars. It looked good. It did. So anyway, they get in that spaceship and they separate. It's not even that big of a spacecraft, but they just split up for whatever reason, and they're looking for the crew. Where is everybody? All of a sudden, Brad Pitt's calling to the other guy saying, Captain, respond, are you all right? You're thinking, oh man, what is this? What's happened? What is this? It's tense. It is a tense moment. And all of a sudden he rounds the corner, and the guy's looking the other way from him, and he's moving in a kind of a weird way. He's calling to him, Captain, answer me. Are you all right? And then you realize the captain's being eaten on. Basically, his face is being munched on by a big space baboon. The animals that they were like experimenting on, or not experimenting on, but you know how they have these experiments even now. How well do rats and monkeys or whatever do in outer space, that kind of a thing. Well, one of them got free and was enraged. He's killed the guy. He's killed the captain. And he tries to kill Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt wrestles him off. He locks him out in this door, and he's trying to bandage up and close up the face mask on the captain so he can float him back to the other spacecraft and they can get out of there. The baboon is knocking the door down. It's just in a rage until Brad Pitt, I forget what he does, the airlock thing, he does something to the pressure. The baboon explodes, basically, on the other side of the door, and you see the blood up against the window. So that was nuts. But it was just, the only weightiness it seemed to have was to build the story as far as this is the cost of the disturbance that's being caused by the surge, this pulse that's coming from Neptune. And so it does kind of build a movie that way. But they've lost their captain. They had this really bad thing, like he's died. Like they can't believe it. And the second in command was kind of hesitant. Oh yeah, Brad Pitt even said he was thinking aloud. Well, not thinking aloud. He didn't say anything. You hear him when the captain says, well, what do you think? Want to take a walk with me? He's looking at his second in command, and he kind of hesitates, looking down like he doesn't want to go outside the ship. And Brad Pitt's voice, you hear it, he says, he's scared. And you realize he was. He was scared. He didn't want to go. And if you'd seen that baboon, which they didn't know about at that point, you'd be scared too. Anyways, he messes up bad when he's trying to land the spacecraft on Mars. Brad Pitt ends up having to kind of take over and land it. And he says, you know why I did that, right? And he doesn't say why, but you understand why. They were about to crash. If the guy hadn't gotten his head out of the air or whatever, because he was messing up, and you don't understand why. Except that he just wasn't performing up to task, and yet he's there. He's a pilot. What happened there? You don't really know. But it was one more thing that made you see like this ultra competence and knowledge and skill on the part of Brad Pitt's character in being able to deal with this stuff, and very, very, very calmly. So that just built more and more on that. So anyway, he gets to Mars. He makes the call from the super special radio transmission room that looks like something out of Total Recall and a NASA vacuum room or whatever, and nothing. And then you hear him, more dialogue, more talking about the past and my father and where I don't know him. I believe in him. I loved him. And just thoughts like he doesn't really know himself. But there's this really great scene where he's making the call one time and he goes off script, which they don't really like, but they don't stop him. And when I say they, I mean the people there, the authorities on Mars who are they're sending the transmission and trying to get a hold of Tommy Lee Jones. So he basically has this realization, Brad Pitt does, where he really begins to see or accept an outwardly show, and you understand he has a moment. He has a moment where he wants to see his father now that he's convinced he's really alive, because this whole time he always just assumed he was dead and made like he had no wish to go and find out what the details were. He just kind of fell in line with the legacy that everybody believed in, as far as the hero that his dad was as a space explorer and teacher and great traveler of the stars and a great mind, and an obsession about finding extraterrestrial life, about finding aliens, basically, other intelligent life, that it became an obsession with him that basically took him over. And that's, if I can remember it right, that's what Keith Sutherland was partly warning him about earlier in the film, before he had basically an attack of his health. You're thinking he's having a heart attack, and really, when Brad Pitt asks about him after he departs from that part, somebody reports to him that so-and-so, Keith Sutherland's character, has had to report for an emergency surgery, but that he's looking to be okay. Anyways, when Brad Pitt has this breakdown moment, and he actually cries a little bit, it's a great scene. I was really pleased with the acting myself. I mean, I really bought it. All of a sudden, everybody kind of goes into lockdown on him. They're not mad at him, but you can see something's changed as far as the transmission that time. Something happened, and you don't really realize what it was. I don't believe I recall the movie showing what had happened. No. They're just like, well, thank you very much, sir. We've sent this transmission, and basically they're telling him that your services won't be required anymore. And he starts to get upset, and the guy warns him, sir, your blood pressure, your heart rate is beginning to spike, and this won't bode well on your next medical evaluation. Please control yourself. And you get this overbearing, this condescending, arrogant scene, and you're really kind of feeling for Brad Pitt at that point, thinking, what's the deal? What's this about? And you realize that he's basically been set up. They're using him to try and get in touch with Tommy Lee Jones, because this young woman gets with him who had been kind of blocked out. She wasn't high enough in the chain of command to be let in on this top secret information. Well, she gets with him and she explains to him what's going on, and she also says to him about how his dad, Tommy Lee Jones' character, had killed her parents on this mission that he's been on. How he had shut down the life support system when these crew members tried to get away. They wanted to leave. They wanted to quit. They wanted to go home. But it had become an obsession for him, finding intelligent life. And you're really kind of rocked in that point in the movie, because you realize this stuff just got real. And that's what the movie changed for me. It changed completely, and I realized, okay, at best, this is just going to be a weird movie, and at worst, this is a complete disaster, and it's the weirdest kind of scary movie or horror story or something that could have been a short story from long ago that left you wondering in a depressed way, what's this all for, you know? That's the way I felt when she said that to him, and he realized what he had to do. He said, I will take care of my father myself. With her help, because she realizes after he told her they're probably going to court-martial, you're going to be in trouble for this, and she says, I don't care anymore. And you want to really feel for her and understand exactly where she's coming from, but you don't get enough time with her or anybody else to really see what she means by I don't care anymore. You just kind of have to just take it at face value that she's been through a lot. As you got with him on Mars saying, I'm responsible for 1,100 and something souls here. Tell me, is this surge going to continue? Are we going to die? And basically he tells her, I've got to get to Neptune and I've got to fix it. And it's all about his dad. It's all about his dad. Life itself will end if he doesn't get closure with his father. And really, that's a message that's back of the whole movie. She sneaks him on board a spacecraft. And again, there's a very dramatic thing as you get the countdown of a big rocket going off. And again, it all looks so good. And I give the movie major points for that and for the tension at certain moments. I liked it. I really did. So big points for that. But he gets in there just in time to not be sucked out. There's an alarm going off, and it's the same crew as brought him to Mars, minus one captain who had died horribly on that distress call side mission they went on where the baboon killed the poor man. They have been briefed about him, apparently, that he's basically becoming a loose cannon. Watch out for him. Do not speak with him. Because there was an eerie moment in the film before that point where they're all three walking past him like cyborgs, like robots. They totally ignore him after he's wanting to know what's going on. This was after the last message that he had tried to send out to Tommy Lee Jones that they think, or you get the impression that it went through and that there was some kind of response to it. And that's what really gets under your skin. And it's a good moment realizing, okay, something's changed. He calls to him as he walks past him in the hallway. And the other two crew members, an Asian man and a black woman, these three crew members that brought him there. And that he had gotten along with fine on the way there. They totally ignore him. And like stone cold shoulder stuff, they just walk and march lockstep into this other room down this big hall in the space colony building on Mars. They realize he's on there, and the one guy pulls a gun on him, and he's trying to tell him, I'm not your enemy. I'm not going to do any harm. But I think they've been told, to kill him or something, shoot to kill. Anyway, the usual phases of the rocket launch into the atmosphere are happening, and they're out of their seats. The one woman with the spacecraft jolts. She goes flying into the back, and her head cracks open on the door, and you're like, oh man, she's died. What kind of movie is this? What's happening here? And then the Asian guy's like, oh, you son of a... He tries to kill him. He fights Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt wins. He tries to get with the captain. Brad Pitt's got his oxygen or whatever because he's in a suit or whatever. And they weren't for whatever reason. And the new captain who almost got him killed earlier in the movie, he doesn't get the air to him. He's trying to save his life, but Brad Pitt can't get the air to him in time, and it's so eerie. It's so awful the way the guy dies. He just suddenly runs out of air. The way he dies. It's a good death scene, don't get me wrong, but it's oh man, they're all three dead. And you hear his mental narration of the film again as he says, what have I done? What have I done? And you're thinking to yourself, what have you done? What in the world is this? Because the way it all transpires on the screen, having watched so many movies in my life going into this one, I'm thinking, okay, this is different. This is different for sure. I'm not hating it, but I don't know how much I like this yet. And yes, I like to keep it in simple terms like that. Do I like it? Do I love it? Or do I hate it? It takes several months to get from Mars, obviously, to Neptune. You see the ship float past Jupiter and then Saturn. No moons or anything. It's just a couple planets that kind of skip Uranus. And then it's onward to Neptune. And again, there's more mental narration of when I get there, what then? I have to bring him home. And again, this was with all the knowledge that now that he has, that his dad has become totally obsessed with finding intelligent life. He's killed people. And he's in danger of the solar system. The Earth is in danger of what the surge could do once it reaches this critical mass. And it's a trip. This film is a trip. Again, there's more memories of Liv Tyler and how distant he always was from her. And you didn't know why. And again, more psych evaluations and more, my heart rate is this, my blood pressure is this, my mind is set, I'm calm, I'm ready to engage the mission, I'm ready to complete my objective. All this like robotic, I gotta do what I gotta do, talk. It works. I'm gonna say this, it works. And I like this stuff. I'm not able to give a lot of the, can't remember all of the mental narration stuff he has. You know what? This might be worth another watch, now that I think about it. Because especially considering the ending of the film, he gets to Neptune. One mark against the movie, this seemed kind of cartoonish, and it looked good, but at the same time, I don't know if this how realistic this stuff is in an age when they're actually trying to do better and better about being scientifically accurate. For instance, under the heading Goofs on IMDb, when you look at this movie, they say when he cries at the end, and the tear would have floated up instead of trickling down his face, stuff like that. The ice crystals, the little tiny little rocks of ice around the rings of Neptune that you see in this film, he floats beneath it. It looks kind of cartoonish. And then he uses this thing to get back from the Neptune ship that his dad, Tommy Lee Jones' character, is on, to get back to his spacecraft. It looks like he's not surfing, but he uses it as a barrier because he launches himself back to his ship in the end. But I'm skipping ahead. When he gets in there, he finds all of the dead crew members. The only survivor is Tommy Lee Jones, and he tries to talk to him, but Tommy Lee Jones is so wild-eyed, so out of his gourd, not manic and hysterical, but just calm and, oh, my work is forever, son. I'm not going anywhere. There's so much more to learn. There's so much more for me to see. And you saw these little clips of him throughout the whole movie. When he was younger, when he's being interviewed, when he's giving speeches, when he's talking about the importance of finding extraterrestrial, I keep saying that, intelligent life. He says, I am doing God's work, and now that I'm in a place where I'm beyond your moral objections and all the parameters set by you little people. He doesn't say quite that, but something close to it. He wants to find others out there in the universe, and he doesn't. And that's part of the ending when Brad Pitt gives that spiel at the end saying he did find so many worlds. He's got the photos of it, he's got the research done, he's got all these images of all these worlds that he found, but he didn't find anything on it. And the world was always right there. He doesn't say it explicitly, but if there's any message that I hope this film is trying to send, and the people who made it, it's that the world was always there for him. It was his son. It was people. And it was all in the story within a story here about Brad Pitt trying to get to his dad to get this closure. He doesn't kill him. And you thought that he was going to kill him. There's something in the film that makes you think that, but he tries to talk to him and he takes him outside of the ship. But it's Tommy Lee Jones who skips out. He uses the thrusters when he's like, Brad Pitt's trying to get him to get onto this platform, this rotating, it's like a transmitter dish of some kind. It's something that goes around and around, and that momentum was going to propel them upward. And Brad Pitt does use that, but he's trying to get Tommy Lee Jones to do it so that they can jump up to his ship, because he's got a nuclear bomb, basically, set inside. That's what he's going to use to destroy the ship and destroy the surge that's coming from the ship and this experiment gone wrong on Tommy Lee Jones' vessel. The bomb set, it's going to go off. So what happens is Tommy Lee Jones uses the thrusters and he goes backwards. He totally knocks Brad Pitt off. But Brad Pitt's connected to him with this cable. And they basically wrestle around in space, getting farther and farther away from the spaceship, from the spacecraft that Tommy Lee Jones has been in for years and years now. It's crazy amounts of time in this story. And he's wrestling with him, and he's saying, no, come home, come with me, come back. And all Tommy Lee Jones keeps saying is, let me go, Roy. Almost like growling at him at one point, let me go. You gotta let me go, Roy. Let me go. And it's just the eeriest thing as he finally realizes if he goes any further, he won't be able to get back. He lets Tommy Lee Jones go, and Tommy Lee Jones goes out into the space. He's kind of like twitching around. You hear this scream, and you're thinking, maybe it's Tommy Lee Jones, and he's just totally just lost his mind. But no, it was Brad Pitt's character underneath his face shield, and that tear coming out of his eye. It's like he's been ripped apart, emotionally. And there's this eerie silence as maybe they're both dead, and you hear him say, why go on anymore? What's the point? And he looks at the spaceship, and he sees that it's still there. His craft, orbiting around the planet. And so he gets back to Tommy Lee Jones' vessel, and he does the thing he was going to do. He takes this platform off, and he goes planet ring ice surfing. It looks, I just don't know if it's possible. I'm not going to complain about the way it looks. I just don't know if it's possible. Could you survive that? I don't think so. The momentum shoots him off of the spaceship and into the rings around Neptune. And all of the ice crystals and all the little rocks bounce off of this big plate that he's got in front of him that he uses as protection. And when he slams into his ship, that should have killed him, but they're just over the top in this stuff. He gets in, he uses the explosion of the nuke going off to propel him away from the ship, and he survives. He manages to get back home, and I'm thinking, is it going to be a court-martialing? He's responsible for 3 deaths. Well, not really responsible. If they hadn't reacted, if that crew hadn't reacted the way they did, they wouldn't have died. But it's still, you're thinking, he's blaming himself, he's going to be blamed, he's going to prison. Then no, it's of course not. That's not what happens. You see him back in his Space Corps uniform and saying about how he's okay now. There's some kind of closure's happening. He's going to live, and he's going to love, he's going to be happy. And he does another psych evaluation, another heart rate's good and everything report, ready to complete his mission. You see Liv Tyler one more time at the very end, and you realize he's okay now. And he does something he doesn't do in the whole movie, and all the little things before that. He smiles at her, and she smiles back, and that's the end of the movie, as he ends the dialogue. And I'm appreciating the movie more and more. I think about it now as I've gone through all this. I think I would like to watch it one more time. It's just, there's some dramatic stuff that's hard to compute when you first see it, at least me anyways, as I'm leaving the theater almost embarrassed by the fact that my mom and my sister weren't as keen as I was to see this movie, and we just had to take all this in. And I'm just thinking, whoa, such strange acting in certain points, and Tommy Lee Jones was totally crazy. He was just gone with his obsession. I mean, he looked good. It sounded good. It was intense. But I'm glad I've done this review because I'm actually appreciating it more and more as the more I think about it. But I don't want to overdo it. So let me end that. Look forward to your comments if you've seen this film. It's worth a watch, in my opinion. It's different, for sure, in its style than most of the movies I've ever seen and that are ever made, but sometimes that's a good thing. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening to me, if you've listened all the way to the end, and we'll see you next time, folks. Take care.